Welcome in everyone to GDT Live. I'm your host, Colton Davies, and today we got Cory Wilkins from Daily Faceoff and from Clean Hits Hockey joining us. Cory, we've already interviewed him, to be honest. It's going to be a played back version. It won't be live, but great chat with him about the Utah Mammoth. Talked a lot about what's kind of going on there, and a lot of talk about JJ Peterka and just how he's going to settle in Utah. This morning, we had the NHL 26 gameplay trailer go up, and some notes from it. Big Willie Styles, shout out to him. He kind of sent me a text about it, and I managed to look at it. I had a busy morning this morning, but so NHL 26 obviously is going to introduce gameplay intelligence with NHL Edge statistics. So they're going to use the advanced data from the NHL Edge program and implement that into the game. So that's pretty cool. I just had a post up on Daily Faceoff yesterday that I made where I asked everybody what their favorite NHL video game was, and for me, it was NHL 14. I think we've talked about this already here on the show, but NHL 14 was one of my favorites. And before that, it was NHL 2005, which was probably my favorite one ever, just because in 05, in NHL 2005, you could play with the IIHF teams, you could build World Cup rosters. There was a lot of fun, a lot of stuff you could do in that game. And I spent many hours as a kid playing that game. But NHL 26 also adds new attributes, like they have updated and enhanced their attributes for speed, acceleration, shot power, etc. So it's more of a realistic attribute now and realistic animations, and they added 81 new goalie animations, which is absurd as well. It's always the one thing about the game is the goalies kind of flip-flop around, as everybody knows. So I think that's good. Get the goalies kind of situated, make the game feel a little more smooth, maybe a little more realistic than what it is. But I like that. I think that's awesome. I'm just looking at some notes here. They also added authentic tendencies. So things like Jacob Trouba's hit, his physical play, Leon Draisaitl, his shot. So things like that have been added in. They're a little more realistic now as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Um, Overall, like 28 new X factors have been enhanced and going to be added as well. The thing with the gameplay trailer is like it's just a trailer, right? Like you can only take so much out of it. We'll see what happens when the game actually like drops and people can play it. But without that being said, like without playing it, sorry, I think it looks okay. The problem is like a lot of these sports games, they're just recycled, right? They're the same games over and over again. They're just a roster update. That's all they really are. And yeah, I think with this game, maybe there's potential with it. I don't know. I'm more interested. I play a lot of franchise mode, so I'm more interested to see what they've done there. I know there was some rumors about them adding three-way trades. I haven't quite looked too much into that to see if that has been confirmed or not. But I don't know. Why don't you guys like sound off in the comments and stuff? Like let us know what your favorite game was. What are some must needs for that game? I think like one must need of course is NCAA. Like they need to add colleges and NCAA schools into the video game in order to, I don't know, make it fun, right? Like how you going to draft Gavin McKenna other than with a created roster, but how you going to draft Gavin McKenna into 2026 NHL draft when he's not even in the video game? So the top prospects like that, at least, I think you need to, do an NIL deal or whatever it would be, and kind of get that player into the video game at somehow, some way. We'll see. But without that, I mean, NHL 26 looks all right, and I'm looking forward to seeing seeing what it's like when it comes out, and like Big Willie Styles has pointed to here in the chat, more customization, and that would be something that I think a lot of people would love. Creating teams, creating logos, even like how the college football game they added the you can like the team builder, so you can go online and you can upload a logo. I think the NHL needs to do that. You can upload like custom logos, make more custom teams. People could actually create the NCAA teams themselves. It just like Willie said, it adds a lot of customizational options, and I think that's something that the NHL game really lacks. But moving on from video games, yesterday, of course, another day in the Holinka Gretzky Cup. And we, of course, over here at GDT Live, we love that. Stephen Ellis has had his daily recaps going up, and Canada won 9-1 yesterday with Mathis Preston having a huge game, having 3 goals. The Spokane Chiefs forward is a projected top 10 pick here for the 2025 or for the 2026 NHL draft. Sorry. So a good game from Canada, 9-1. Damian Zilkin scored twice as well, and Adam Valentini scored twice too. Mathis Preston has been great. He loves rushing the with open space. He'll burn you. He'll do whatever he can. He's got a great release as well. So I love watching Mathis Preston. He was really good last year when he came through Kamloops and played here a few times with Spokane. Schaefer Gordon Carroll, Medicine Hat Tigers forward who plays for Team USA. He had a great game as well yesterday. Schaefer Gordon Carroll, as he's kind of been nicknamed SGC. He's a great two-way option. He's had a couple good games for the US, really putting himself on the map, and as a guy that could be a first rounder this year. He's a Medicine Hat Tigers forward, of course. And then Matej Stankoven, the cousin of Logan Stankoven, had the only goal yesterday for Slovakia in their 1-0 win over Germany. So, yeah, kind of cool to see another Stankoven. Of course, Matej is going to be playing in the CHL this year, and that'll be cool to see another Stankoven in the CHL and playing here in junior hockey. But I think that does it for my little spiel that I had. I just wanted to talk about NHL 26, talk a little bit about the Holinka Gretzky. We'll do a quick ad read, and then I think I'll throw it to the Cory Wilkins interview, as that was a good one. So, as always, Game Day Tarps GDT Live is presented by Quench Hydration. Feel your grind with Quench Hydration, zero sugar, bold flavor, and real results. Get 15% off your first order at quenchhydration.com with code Game Day Tarps. And without further ado, I will toss it on to the Cory Wilkins interview. The Peterka trade. What did you make of that, and what kind of hole does it kind of, I guess, put with Doan and Kesselring being out? I don't know if there's necessarily a hole, but I think Kesselring played a pretty pivotal role for the Mammoths defense. But why don't you kind of shine some light on that trade and where things kind of went with that?
For sure. I mean, I guess starting with Kesselring, probably one of the more underrated defensemen in the league. He's 6'4". He's a right shot. He's got a cheap contract. He's under contract. I believe it's for the next 2 seasons, I want to say. We just saw what he did last season with Utah, really stepped in on the right side with John Moreno and Sean Dursey both out for more than half of last season. And then saw him again at the World Championship, win the gold medal with Team USA, played a really critical role there. Tough piece to lose. For sure. But when you look bringing in a piece like a JJ Peterka, obviously you got to give up something that's going to hurt. Josh Doan, I don't know if he's going to be more than maybe a very high quality third liner long term. I think that's a piece for long-term fans of the franchise to lose Shane Doan's son, to see him go. That's a tough one. But again, to bring in a piece like Peterka, and you look at how Utah played last season, and one of their biggest issues was outside of Dylan Guenther, there wasn't a lot of wingers who could finish. And that was really unfortunate when you have players like Logan Cooley who can make those setups, but when there wasn't comparable wingers who could complete those plays, that was something that was really holding back the team.
Just pulling up daily faceoffs lines for Utah's, I was curious where Peterka would slot in. I would assume first line, but where do you kind of see him filling in? How do you see Utah deploying Peterka?
Yeah, I would think first line. I think when it comes to Paterka, I think the interesting piece is Nick Schmaltz because I don't know what his long-term future is with the team. So
Yeah.
Nick Schmaltz is a player, yeah, who's played with Clayton Keller and Barrett Hayton over the last couple of seasons, but Schmaltz is only signed through this upcoming season, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. I don't think he'll be re-signed by the team, and that's not a knock on him as a player. It's just you look at the prospects coming up with TJ Ginla and some of the other players they've drafted. There's just not going to be a space for him, and then what does a player like Nick Schmaltz get in this $150 million cap world? Does it make sense burning upwards of 9-10 million on a 60-ish point winger when you can replace him with an ELC like a TJ Ginla type? So I think Paterka's, I'm not sure if he's going to play on the first line immediately, but I think that's going to be the immediate, that's going to be the fit long term.
They Daily Faceoff has him on the second line with Schmaltz and Hayton. Yeah, so that I think that makes sense for sure. You look at the young guys. I got to watch Dylan Gunther for quite a few years here in the WHL, and he's always been a guy that I was like, okay, this is an elite player. This is a player that's going to really find his footing. Sorry, in the NHL, and he seems to be on that path right now. He gets that 8x8 contract. What do you kind of make of Gunther's path and his contract?
Contract, like, zero complaints. I think that's going to very
Yeah.
quickly become one of the best contracts in the league. Very grateful that it was signed before the new cap figures came out. Maybe Dylan Gunther doesn't really feel the same. Maybe he's short a couple $1 million there, but hopefully they can do the same with Logan Cooley and get a really nice number there. But Dylan Gunther came very close to 30 goals last year as I want to say 21-year-old. Missed about 12 games with a groin injury. So had he not missed those times, would have cracked 30. I think 40, very possible as soon as this season. And long term, is he a 50 goal scorer? We'll see. But probably one of the quickest releases in the league, a very important piece on Utah's power play. And I think, if not the most valuable player on the team, he's certainly in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of young guys coming up. We'll kind of get to that. But one guy, veteran guy who was brought in, Nate Schmidt, Stanley Cup
Mhm.
champion. What do you make of that? Kind of, is that your kind of Kessel Ring replacement in a sense?
I think so. Like, if you look at Utah's defense last season, they used 12 defensemen over the course of the season, so double the six,
Yeah.
which is just crazy. And we know you need defensive depth with injuries and those sorts of things, but the fact that they used 12 is just wild. He did get some term, so I don't know where he's going to fit in, maybe long term, but for the next couple of seasons here, while players like Maverick Lamoureux are still developing, he's certainly a good piece. He can play both the left side and the right side. It's another guy on the team with a Stanley Cup ring. And if we do run into, I mean, inevitably injuries are going to happen, especially on defense. It's a nice piece to have. I think he's probably going to be a third pair guy, but certainly good depth for the team.
And speaking of depth, Brandon Tanev comes in, just an energy guy. I mean,
Mhm.
we all see the headshots every year of him. We see what he can do. He's a very hot commodity come trade deadlines. Of course, as player teams want that type of player on their squad for the playoffs. But what do you make of Tanev coming over?
Yeah, loved his playoffs in Winnipeg. I thought for sure he was going to be signing in Toronto with his brother. And then you talk about a team who's probably a little bit closer to a Stanley Cup than Utah right now is Toronto. But yeah, excited to bring a player like Brandon Tanev to Utah. I mean, outside of some of the scoring issues they've had up front, they do still have a bit of a size issue. Now, you're not getting a lot of size with Tanev, but you are getting a player who just has that never say die attitude. He's blocking shots, he's gritty, and that's something they've really missed, especially on the wings up front.
What can you kind of say about Vitek Vanacek coming in? What's the tandem this year, and what do you make of the goaltending situation with Vizmelka? And I always get that name wrong. I feel like I pronounce it wrong, but it is Vizmelka, isn't it?
So I think you want to just pretend the J is an H, so Vamelka.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, okay, Velmelka.
yeah,
Gotcha.
close
What?
enough.
Yeah, close enough. What do you make of the tandem?
Well, it's hard to say because a lot hinges on what's going to happen with Connor Ingram. He's still
Right.
in the player assistance program. Obviously, his well being is number one, but we saw with the type of goaltender he can be, especially in the last season in Arizona, tied for the league with 6 shutouts. Didn't particularly play well last year, but did have some different off ice challenges with the death of his mother, and then he went into the program. So really hard to get that consistency. So if he can come in with a clean slate, I think he's someone who can still challenge for the starting role. But again, like you said, Karel Vejmelka really proved what he can do last season. He's gotten better each season. the numbers in Arizona kind of floated around the 900 save percentage mark, but the defense score in front of
Mhm.
him, had guys like Josh Brown playing regular minutes. So wasn't behind the best defensive core. And over time here, the D core has continued to improve and will continue to get better in Utah, right? So naturally, his numbers should
Yeah.
go up as well. Vitek Vanacek, I think, is some important depth. You look at the stretch drive last season when Utah was trying to make the playoffs. Vejmelka was playing pretty much every game because they didn't have a reliable backup. They brought in Jackson Stauber from the AHL, and he's a good AHL goalie, and he actually had a shutout in his first game with Utah, but he wasn't someone they could turn to. Where Vanacek, I know he didn't have the best numbers in San Jose, but that wasn't the best team either. If you look back to, especially go back to his time with the Devils, some really solid numbers there. And, if they are in a situation where Ingram can't play next year, and they have to play Vejmelka, let's say 50, 55 games, I think they can trust to get, 25-ish games out of the new recruit and have some confidence in that.
Yeah, Connor Ingram. I've had the chance to kind of chat with him a little bit. Working for the Kamloops Blazers, he's
Mhm.
kind of been around in an alumni standpoint, but I just want to, hats off to him. I mean, obviously, what he goes through is just, it's unfathomable. I couldn't imagine that. So, just quickly wanted to say that. Of course, can't forget about him on that depth chart, and hopefully he can come back and really drive this team into the right direction. But speaking of driving the team into the right direction, this is something from my outside standpoint that I've kind of been feeling about Utah, but it seems like Ryan Smith really is pushing this team to be successful super quick. And
Mhm.
do you kind of, is that the same motion that you kind of are getting?
I mean, and just what a change of pace from things in Arizona, right? Where
Yes.
it was just, just scraping by, just getting to the salary cap floor. You look at one of the first moves they made when they became Utah, and they brought in Mikhail Sergachev from Tampa. He was due, I believe it was an $8.5 million signing bonus just days after the trade. Now, if they were still in Arizona, like that was not happening. They were not going to output an $8.5 million check in a single day. So just enabling stuff like that to happen, to go out in free agency. I mean, I know they didn't add a Marner or pieces like that, but they were in the conversation for some of those bigger names, and that was not something that happened historically.
I think with Utah, they're becoming a team where it's like Vegas almost, and it's early to say that, of course, but when a big name gets put out there, you can kind of almost like say, okay, Utah's going to be a part of this. Like they want to call, they want to do something, and we saw that with the JJ Paterka trade. They took a swing on it, I think, and it's some people are critical of it, but I think it's going to work wonders for them. I think Paterka is really going to just flourish in Utah and really pick up the pace.
And hopefully it's like every other player who's found their way out of Buffalo.
Yeah, yeah, of course, right, Sam Reinhart. Looking back at the draft, I know you guys have had Stephen Ellis on your program. You've had Scott Wheeler on, the prospect on, of course, all friends of our show as well. Fantastic guys. What do you make of Caleb Denoyer's draft pick? And do you think I'll put you on the spot here. I don't know how much of a prospects guy you are, but do you think Denoyer has a better chance at making the roster than Iginla?
I would think Iginla has a better chance, but I don't think either of them are going to. You look
Yeah.
at some of the comments by Bill Armstrong and his assistant GM, John Ferguson, they are very much in tune on let's slow bake these guys. And again, if you go back to what happened in Arizona with the multiple failed rebuilds there, like they had players like Peter Mueller and Mikhail Bodker who came up way too soon, Max Domi, Dylan Strome, and they were rushed and it sidetracked the whole rebuild. So I know I've heard a quote a couple of times from John Ferguson where he said, like, I've seen players who have spent too little time in the AHL, but I've never seen a player who spent too much time there. And I think that's something
Mm.
they want to do. I think with Iginla, with him missing so much time last year, I think it's critical that he goes back to Kamloops. He has an opportunity to be on the World Junior team. He has an opportunity to compete for a Memorial Cup with Kamloops hosting it. Deone, I think he's just so raw, right? He's this big, lanky center, does a lot right. I don't know if there's a wow factor in his game, but he does check a box for Utah in that they don't really have a second line center long term behind Logan Cooley. So I think he'll go back to Moncton. He might only be a year away, but I don't think he should be in the NHL as soon as next season.
Yeah, for sure. And just quickly, the Memorial Cup is being hosted in Kelowna. So that you
Yes,
said
yes.
Kamloops. Just quickly wanted to correct that. Man, I wish we were hosting it again. Are you kidding me? We hosted
Got
it
my
in
K's mixed up.
2023. No, that's okay. The cities are like 2 hours apart. But if people from Kamloops or from Kelowna heard that, they'd be pissed. It's like I don't know. It's like mixing up the other cities, right? Like there's a little rivalry between these two cities. But I think I think that's the best thing for Teach. Go back,
Mhm.
go play in the Memorial Cup. You're going to have this huge opportunity. You're going to lead the World Junior team. Like there's no reason to rush him, right? And that's what happened in Arizona, and you just alluded to that. I think for Teach, if he can go back and he can put up a 80-point season, and he's goes and plays in a big role for the World Juniors and can carve out a Memorial Cup, he's onto great things here, and he maybe can crack that roster next year.
And it fits too, right? To do this like slow burn style rebuild where you've accumulated all these
Yeah.
draft picks, you've carefully picked all these guys. Like, why do that so slowly and then rush it at the end? There doesn't seem to be a lot of I don't think Bill Armstrong's job is in danger, so there's not sort of pressure in that way. I think he has the support of ownership to just continue to build this out. And you look at some of the other teams, how long it took them to build out. I mean, Utah won the lottery this year, but they've never won a first, second overall, those sorts of things. And you look at like a team like St. Louis, where Bill Armstrong came from, it was like a 15-year build to get that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I love what Bill Armstrong does. Like he's such a good builder, and I think he's perfect for that Utah team. Another prospect, just from that draft, I wanted to get to. I'm actually, I can't name him, of course, but I'm friends with a Utah scout, and he comes out to the WHL games all the time, and so you guys took a player in the second round, Max Pejnika, out of Portland, and he's a right shot defenseman out of Czechia. I'll give you a quick scouting report if you don't know much about him, but he's a great mobile defenseman. I think he's actually got what it takes to maybe carve out a top six role. But it was funny when me and this scout were watching the Blazers game. They were playing Portland, and Pejnika was there, and that was his report. And Pejnika came up down the ice and just toe dragged one of the Blazers defensemen, and immediately the scout goes, "Oh, second round pick, 100%." And it was just funny how as soon as Utah took him, I had to fire him off a text and go, "Wow, looks like your scouting report did some work." But what do you make of Max Pejnika if you've had the chance at all to kind of watch him? I know I went on a long-winded thing there.
Oh, no, all good. I don't know a whole lot about the player, but I mean, anytime you can add defensive depth, and it's funny that they got him in the second round because I heard a comment from one of Utah's scouting directors that they had him ranked late in the first. So to walk out of the draft with two guys, at least two guys that you had ranked in the first round, is huge. I mean, as far as the player, a bit of a wild year last year and starting overseas, and then he came over to Portland. And then I'm also a big proponent of taking for programs, particularly in the CHL, that have good development history, and Portland is one of those teams. So lots of confidence when you're taking a player from the Winterhawks.
Yeah, of course. Seth Jones is like one of the big names, of course, that pops out there all over Bjorkstrand. Yeah,
Mhm.
lots of names that we can go down the list of. I'm a junior hockey nerd, as people in our chat point out often. Speaking of defensemen, Maverick Lamoureux, is he a guy that can make the roster this year, or is he still a couple years away?
I think he could, but there's a lot of roadblocks in front of him just in terms of the depth. And then you look at he's missed a lot of time over the last couple of years. He's had a couple of wonky injuries. He had a collarbone injury. He missed some time with mono. I think he just needs like one full season in the AHL where he even got called up for a bit last year and he looked okay. But the longer
Mhm.
he played in the NHL, it looked like, okay, he needs a little bit more time developmentally. So I would like to see one good stretch of him in the AHL, just go down there, play a full season, be the number one defenseman with the Roadrunners, and then come up in a year from now, especially when there's a little bit more clarity on the right side with what Utah will be doing. John Marino has 2 more years left. So maybe in a year from now, I don't know what his long term is with the team, but certainly, Maverick Lamoureux, when you can add a 6'7", 6'6" defenseman, developing offensive game, it seems to be a really good guy in the locker room, lots of leadership, lots of excitement with that player for sure.
What about Dmitry Simashev? I don't know too much about him, but I believe he was signed, right?
He signed, and so was Daniil Boot. Lots of excitement
Okay.
over those two. I think Simashev is a little bit closer to NHL ready than Boot, from what I've heard. They
Mhm.
both have clauses in their contract where I think it is they can play in Tucson this coming year, but I think it's for the next 2 years or about like the year and a half of the 3-year deal where, if they aren't getting the opportunities, they can go back to Russia and develop. But I think Simashev is closer to playing for Utah right now than Daniil Boot, but lots of excitement around both players. Simashev, great shutdown defenseman, and Daniil Boot is just huge. It's like 6'9". He can score. Like, yeah, you don't see wingers that big, right? And he can score. So lots of excitement around that player.
Kind of got your own Tage Thompson in a sense, just walking around out there, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
anytime I see a big player, I just immediately think of Tage Thompson. What's kind of the atmosphere like in Utah? Like you've been to games, I assume. Like what is it like? Can you kind of walk me through it?
Yeah, went to 2 games last year. Lots of excitement there. It's not a new market to hockey because they have had the ECHL and the AHL. So,
Yeah.
it wasn't as if like the NHL expanding to some new hockey market altogether. So there was some history there. But I do think, over time the fans were learning as well about the NHL game, and just the building is incredibly loud. They've done an extensive renovation to it this summer, and they're going to continue it over the next 2 summers to get the capacity up to NHL level. So they have about 11,000 unobstructed seats and then another 5,000 or so that were partially obstructed. So they've continued to just build up that 11,000 number. But yeah, great atmosphere. And that should only continue to get better as the team gets better.
Is there plans, and I know this is way too early, but is there plans, because I know it happened with the Kraken and with Vegas, but is there plans to have the AHL team close by?
It's hard to say. So the AHL team is still owned by the former Coyotes owner. So it's just an
Gotcha.
affiliate right now. But
Yeah.
we've also seen that the ECHL team in Utah, they're not going to stay there long term. So I mean, that arena is going to be open up in West Valley, which isn't too
Right.
far from Salt Lake. So seems like a natural landing spot if the Tucson team. I think Tucson only has 1 year left on their lease, so you can kind of just see the stars aligning for a potential move to Utah as well.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's nice when I think it's nice when the AHL teams are close. Like Vancouver has Abbotsford right down the road, and
Hmm.
Calgary has Calgary, right? Like there's a lot of good ones, of course, and I think it helps with development, and it's probably a
Hmm.
lot easier on the players too, right? Like you're not jumping on an airplane and flying 3 hours across the country or anything like that. It's just a simple little drive or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
Going back to last season, I know we're kind of jumping around here, but going back to last season, was there anybody that exceeded your expectation?
Um, I don't know if exceeded expectation, but I don't think Clayton Keller gets as much praise as he should get. Like he's knocking on the door of
Yeah.
100 points. He eclipsed 90 last year, and he's still kind of doing this without a number one center. I think Logan Cooley, if he's not a number one center right now, he's very soon. But like he's not playing. Keller's not playing with number one centers like some of the other top wings in the league. So if he can get 90-ish points playing with a very young Logan Cooley, like what can Keller do in a couple years when Logan Cooley is 25? So I'm really excited to see what happens there. It was his first year as captain, and I think he really excelled in that role. I think there was maybe some hesitancy because he's not the most outspoken player, but I think he's the type
Hmm.
who leads by example. And yeah, I was just very impressed by Clayton Keller last season.
Yeah. What can you kind of say about Logan Cooley? Because he just seems to be knocking on the doorstep of being this just superstar player. Like, what can you kind of say about him?
Yeah, incredibly exciting player. I wonder if you redo his draft year. So Arizona got him at 3. If you redo his draft year, does he go to number 1 ahead of Slavkovsky? I'm
Oh,
not sure, but I think he might. There's a conversation there, right?
yeah.
Um, Critical year for him coming up because he is a restricted free agent next summer. I'm sure Bill Armstrong would love to lock him up sooner than later, but yeah, lots of excitement around this player.
On the flip side of that, has there been anybody on the team who just kind of like needs to step it up a little bit? You think, or is the team just in a mode right now where that doesn't need to happen?
I think, there's some disappointment around Lawson Krause last season. This is a player who
Okay.
has 20 goal upside, and just last year the numbers weren't there. And it was disappointing, especially because, okay, if the offense isn't there, he at least has the size where he can back it up physically. But like even the hits were down last year. So he was probably the most disappointing on the player on the team last season, and would love to see a rebound from him next season because he is a bit of a unique player in this league, right? Because you don't get a lot of players who are 6'4" and they can hit and they can score. So like he very much has the
Yeah.
potential to be a guy who can get 20 goals and 250 hits, and that didn't happen last season.
Yeah, for sure. What are the season expectations you think for this year?
I think playoffs. Bill Armstrong has made those comments that it's essentially playoffs or bust. I think they're probably right on the doorstep. Now, it's so tough, right, with this new playoff system where it's essentially only 5 spots because it's either top 3 in your division or you got to get one of the 2 wild cards. So you look at the Central Division, and I don't think they're ahead of Winnipeg. I don't think they're ahead of Colorado. I don't think they're ahead of Dallas. So that really just leaves 2 spots open, right? So, they do still have some cap space left. I don't know if they're done yet, but they do still have. I mean, if you get creative, they have about $10 million or so to spend. I would love to see them still add one more center. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think if they can add that one piece, that would really push them over the edge to get into that last playoff spot.
Do you have a player in mind?
Oh, I've probably annoyed the Utah fan base with my admiration for Marco Rossi. Now he doesn't really fit into a
Oh,
Bill Armstrong team because he's only 5'9". But I always say like he's not small; he's just short. Like he's got that Max Domi build, right, where he's thick and he's like a fire hydrant. And he got
yeah.
60 points in Minnesota last year. I know he didn't have the best end of the year where he was on the 4th line in the playoffs, but still unsigned by Minnesota. So still some hope on my part that he could move.
No, you got the assets to do it as well. That'd
Yeah.
be a good move.
Hmm.
Oh, now that you
And
got me
he
thinking
has
about that.
right, and he has some ties with Andre Tournier because they were together with the Ottawa 67s in the OHL.
Right. Okay, maybe Corey, maybe you just figured it out. Maybe that's the plan. If that
Cross
happens,
our
you're
fingers.
100%. Yeah, there you go. Okay, the Mammoth logo and jersey. Now, this went on for forever, and
Hmm.
I gotta ask you, are you a fan of it?
Yeah, I'm a fan. When the whole process started and they put out, I think it was 20 or so names. I like
Yeah.
Yeti. Yeti was always top of my list. I think it just rolls off the tongue. I think you can do some interesting stuff. And when the logos leaked, I didn't mind the logo. I really like the Mammoth logo too.
Mhm.
But I think what's different about the Mammoth is there's an actual tie there, right? With I think Utah is the number 1 states in terms of fossils found for Mammoth, whereas Yeti is just this made up thing, right? So
Yeah.
with Mammoth having an actual tie to the state, I thought that was really cool. And I was not at all a fan of the Outlaws. I think that's just too, EA Sports of a team name. I think that can apply to a lot of places, but it probably doesn't apply to Utah. I mean, if you go back to like the Butch Cassidy days and those sorts of things, but I think it's just a little too cartoony for me.
I like it. My thing was I think in the you probably may have seen it in the Messinger in our chat and Daily Face Off there. I almost said what the name was, but we I what did I say? I said the Utah Rock because if they were going for music ones, you got the Utah
Hmm.
Jazz. Go for the Utah Rock. I don't know. I was just spitballing names, but honestly, I like Mammoth. I think the logo has really grown on me. The jersey is
Hmm.
really, I love the jersey. I think that blue is so unique. It's one of my favorite colors. So I'm really excited to kind of see that jersey out there. And it was nice to see it at the draft and Caleb Denoye wearing it. But what do you make of the away jersey still just saying Utah?
Yeah, I would like to see a powder blue jersey with the logo on it. I wonder if
Oh,
they're saving that for maybe a couple years down the road. They can bring that in, get some more revenue off of that. They can
yeah.
do. The commissioner's already made some comments of a potential outdoor game in Utah, so maybe it's an opportunity to debut it there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that shade of blue, nobody else in the league uses it, right? So like, let's take
No.
advantage of it and really blow it up.
Yeah, for sure. We ask everybody this. What is your favorite jersey aside from Utah?
Um, you know what? I might go New Jersey. I think I just like the simplicity of the logo. I like that it's only red, white, and black. I like that they took out the green. That was a little too Christmassy for a hockey jersey. I just like the simplicity, the NJ. It looks really well. And I mean, you look at the history of that team, right? That logo means Stanley Cups and Scott Stevens and Marty Brodeur. So
Yeah, that's a great answer. We've never had anyone say that one, so that's a good answer. I like that. Hey Corey, you guys do great stuff over at Clean Hits Hockey. Why don't you kind of tell our viewers what you guys do over there? And I also want to ask you another question just to kind of follow up with that. You can answer it first, though. Who's been your favorite interview? You guys have had some fantastic people on.
I mean, so since we both know each other from DFO, I probably have to plug Frank Saravelli here. But you know what? I
Yeah.
think a really fun one was, and I mean, it sucks that he's no longer on the team, but Michael Kesselring was a
Yeah.
great interview. He was kind of speaking about some of the other teammates in a fun way, mocking. So Jack McBain and Dylan Gunther live together, and they've become like friends through making Costco trips and stuff like that. And they bought an inflatable hot tub, and they have it in their backyard in Salt Lake City. So making fun of that because it broke and it just sits there and kind of just rots away. So no, he was a really fun interview to have, and that was probably one of the most disappointing aspects of him getting traded is, you know, now he's no longer
Yeah.
part of this team.
Oh, that's awesome. Why don't you just kind of tell everybody about your podcast and where they can find it?
For sure. So cleanhitshockey.com. And this was something we started when the team left Arizona for Utah because, you know, as long-term fans in Arizona had a lot of knowledge of the team and was coming into a market that they have some really nice hockey reporters there, but this was a new entity to them. And we thought we could share our knowledge of the team. So this started, I believe it was the end of May of last year. So we're just over a year here now and pumped out 60-ish episodes and had some exciting guests on the show, and really looking forward to our second season here. It almost feels like a first season, right? Because the first season was as the hockey club, and now it's going to be as the Mammoth. So, and could be a potential playoff year as well. So lots of excitement around the team and lots of excitement about what we can do with this podcast.
Awesome. Hey, Cory, thanks so much for joining me today, man. You're the best.
Awesome. No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Cory Wilkins from Clean Hits Hockey and Daily Faceoff. Fantastic interview with him. Thanks so much to Cory for donating half an hour of his time. That about does it for today's episode of GDT Live. Tomorrow, we got a fun one tomorrow. I'm not going to spoil it though. So keep an eye out on our socials, usually around 9 o'clock Pacific time. So we usually tweet out who the guest of the day is, or guests if we have a double header. But that about does it for us here over at Game Day Tarps. So back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 o'clock Eastern, right here on GDT Live.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.